Look, I don't really know how to start this video. Do you know the feeling when you're imagine doing something and when you finally start actually doing it, you just stop or you just can't do it? But yeah, maybe I should start the video like it's something like this. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a professional in health or medicine. Everything I say should be taken with a grain of salt. Like, if you're concerned with your health, you should absolutely contact at least one or maybe more experts. I'm only here to tell some of my story and experience in chronic illness. Last November, something really important happened. I turned 21, and I'm not talking about the fact that I can now almost drink everywhere legally on the world, but I'm talking about the fact that I have been chronically ill for 10 years now. And I, I feel like I have a lot of stories or experiences that mm, most of us don't talk about who are either chronically ill or disabled. Okay, you know what? Just give me one moment. Okay, this is almost every, well, medical record I have from these past 10 years. Well, obviously, I won't show it to you because it contains my legal name and the legal name of my doctors as well. Plus, I can't really, well, translate what's in this, but like, this is thicker than my finger. So yeah, cool, right? Well, I have a autoimmune disease that attacks my joints. It's called something like rheumatic arthritis or something like that. Okay, it basically works like this. You have your white blood cells in your body and it constantly runs around in your blood vessels. It it literally goes touchy touchy to your other cells, like tap me up, and it usually chill. If it detects something that's not supposed to be there, like bacteria and viruses, maybe even cancerous cells or anything like that, it attacks it. That's how your immune system works in a extremely well basic and dumbed down way. The problem with this autoimmune illness is is that your blood cells literally goes crazy, like they just go stupid and and attack your own healthy cells. For me, it's my joints. And you might think like if it attacks something, how badly it does it. It's not really about like beating up some cells. These white blood cells are built to destroy. So when when it attacks your own healthy cells, it literally just destroys it. That's that's about it. So your body kind of just eats itself alive, or dissolves itself. Well, if I had to describe this illness in a very short way, I could say my my body occasionally likes to cosplay as an 80-year-old man. You might have thought, although this sounds really bad, at least it's only your joints. Well, autoimmune illness is just a big group. You can have all kinds of different autoimmune diseases or illnesses. I only got the one that attacks my joints. But there are the kinds that destroys your muscles, that attacks your, I don't know, nervous system. There's like 80 different uh, of these things. But are these things actually painful? Well, well, yes and no. I can't really speak about the other diseases, but the tricky part about this one is that your joints get inflamed, but sometimes you can't really feel it. You don't feel pain. You can't really see swelling. Uh, all you the only symptom is like not being able to bend your fingers all the way. For example, like this is your this is your normal movement, right? Sometimes if if your fingers are inflamed, you can't really bend your fingers or any other joint. And why it's actually important to feel pain is that you notice, focus you dingus. Yo, okay. It's actually important to feel pain because, just as I said it before, your body destroys your healthy cells, your healthy body parts, and this can result in, like, in extreme cases, losing bone density, destroying your jelly substance in your joints that makes it easier to bend it, which by the way is painful if it's get, you know, if it disappears. And all of those can result in difficulty in movement, like generally losing some, what's it called, quality of life. Well, you probably heard about steroids before. If you're into bodybuilding or working out, you definitely have. And I'm not so sure if bodybuilders and athletes use the same kind of steroids as we get in healthcare, but it basically works the same. Steroid is a growth hormone. It's in your body, your body produces it naturally, but only in small amounts because it's a double-edged sword. And basically we get the same thing, but in a much bigger dose, or in small doses, but in a long period of time. When I first experienced the symptoms, I had to take steroid pills for around a month at the age of 10 or 11. And after that, I always got a steroid injection, like a steroid shot. Okay, steroids are awesome. They they lower your blood cell count in your blood, which is responsible for the inflammation. It boosts your body to heal and to build muscle. That's why bodybuilders use it as well, obviously. And there are some bunch of other health benefits, but there are some serious drawbacks of prolonged steroid abuse. Things like heart failure or cancer. For males, it's usually liver cancer. We have a higher chance to get liver cancer from steroid use. Like hair loss, I don't have it. You can't really see it because this, but luckily I don't have hair loss. In the same way as bodybuilders die from heart attacks, is because they inject the steroid, usually in your thigh. You, you push in the steroid and it's in your bloodstream. And since this is a hormone, it it goes to your muscle cells and it basically activates a response to build more muscle and to get stronger, to heal faster and stuff like that. But the problem, since it's your in your bloodstream, it goes around your body and activates every muscle. It activates this signal, this sequence, or call it whatever, in every muscle. And your heart is a muscle as well. So yeah, your basically your heart gets bigger, and that's not a good thing. Okay, you don't want your heart to get bigger because that's how you get a heart attack. Not in a year, but 20 to 15 years if you continuously abuse steroids. And the sad part is we must take steroids because otherwise we will remain sick. It does not, the symptoms doesn't go away if they appear. It just doesn't. You either take your steroid amount your doctor gives you, or let your body eat itself alive. That's the only two options you have. I am one of those lucky cases who does not have to take regular steroid shots or pills at all. I only had, like, I don't know, 6 steroid shots in my life. 2 in my right knee, 2 in my left knee, and another 2 in my, well, yeah, you see it. And and to my knowledge, that is kind of rare. Mm, most of us from this disease have to take steroid shots like every 5 or 6 months. I'm not sure. I don't really know anyone else with this disease or any disabled or chronically ill person for that matter. But for me, I'm most of the times I'm symptoms free. Where was I again? I have been sitting here for like, I don't know, 8 minutes and forgot what I was talking about. Okay, when I experience a flare up, or when my symptoms start to reappear again, it goes something like this. I usually have some degree of pain. This varies from how long I have been sick, from the weather. I am a little more sensitive to cold air and stormy weathers, and it can worsen my case, especially if I experience some flare up. I usually have difficulty with movement in the joint I have problems with. It's usually sensitive to touch as well, and it can be extremely sensitive if the inflammation is really bad. The worse the inflammation, the more sensitive it is to basically everything, to touch, to pressure, to the weather, and the more it hurts as well. Luckily, just as I said, I I have years in between every flare up. The first time was when I was 11 when it appeared. Then it reappeared when I was around 15, and it reappeared again when I was 20, and it's still going on. I will talk about it in a little later. So yeah, for me it takes like around 4 to 5 years on average to reappear again, and I'm extremely grateful for that, because I can live quote like a normal person when I don't experience any of these symptoms. I I do sports. I I work out. At least I used to. I work. Like I do all the things that a normal person will do in their life, which is kind of a problem in a sense, because most of the times I look completely normal. Don't mind the mask. I don't wear this usually. Uh, so every time when someone sees me, they just see a guy, like a completely normal guy minding his own business, and when it comes up that I'm chronically ill, people usually don't believe me, or most of the times I get some BS opinion, or more like advice I heard at least 1,000 times before. Like, you should do sports, or move your body more. You shouldn't eat junk food, and take some vitamins, and all of these things in between. And people doesn't really seem to understand that it doesn't really work like that. It does help. Okay, I'm not saying it doesn't help. That's why I do sports and try to eat clean whenever I can, because it helps. It keeps my body healthier and more resilient against injuries and other sickness, it's important to work out, eat healthy, and basically stay healthy. But when you see someone have an asthmatic attack, you don't go to that person and say, "Have you tried breathing before? Like, take a breath." Like, it, dude. I would like to take a fresh air of breath if I had an asthmatic attack, but obviously I cannot. Like, you need your inhaler to do that because you're ill. You have a emergency that you cannot control, and this is the same. But for some reason, a lot of people don't seem to understand this. To some degree, I can control what's happening to me, but it got its limits. Okay, that's why we need medical care, help from professionals who can take away these symptoms. I'm not really angry at these people, but it gets annoying after 10 years of basically listening to all of these things. But yeah. And what I usually don't talk about is, even though that I can live like a normal person most of the times, it doesn't mean it's comfortable. What I mean by that is, I usually experience some discomfort or pain in my joints in every day. Like, that's how my days goes. So basically, I can move, but it takes a certain amount of power, or I don't know, like, it takes a certain amount of willpower to actually do things. It depends on how much pain or discomfort I'm feeling at the moment, but I feel like the same way a lot of people don't understand that I'm not in control. The same way they don't understand how much, well, like, they don't really understand how much energy I burn up just to do basic things, depending on if I have a relatively good day or a bad day. And I don't really talk about this because I don't really have an option. Uh, Things either get done or they don't, and those things don't really care if I'm in pain or in discomfort. So, I don't have an option. And you could, and, others probably would say, if you're in pain doing something like either sports or work, or basically anything, like, stop doing it. Why are you doing it? If you experience pain, then you shouldn't do it. But what other option do I have? Sit in that bed for the rest of my life? I mean, I could do it, but let's be honest, that's boring and far worse than experiencing some pain or discomfort in exchange of actually getting paid for your work, or going out and doing sports or be with friends or something. Well, I'm not one of those people who goes out to be with some friends because I feel ashamed, and I feel like I just hold back people who are, you know, healthy or normal. So I usually don't really talk to anyone other than family members. And I feel like a lot of us who are either chronically ill or disabled do these things to keep people out, because I believe I'm dragging people down with me, and since I believe that, I feel like a lot of us believes that as well, and that's why we keep people away from ourselves, which isn't healthy. For a really long time, I thought if I don't talk about these things, if I pretend that I'm fine and strong, I I basically protect people from the mental and the mental injuries. I'm keeping them from being hurt, basically, with not telling how much pain I'm in, or how much difficulty I'm experiencing, which might make me look strong, but it's not really useful. Like, I just look strong, but deep down I'm struggling to do things. I I I sometimes refuse help from others, even if I'm in an extreme amount of pain and can barely walk. I'm still stubborn enough to walk outside just to drink a glass of water, for example, and I refuse help. What should I talk about more? Oh, right. I was a lot of times in hospitals, or how should I say this? When you need help, as in help from a doctor to get your medicine, or if you're in such a bad state, you're going to stay in a hospital. I myself stayed in hospitals a lot of times. Whenever I met someone or meet someone and actually get to know them a little, I realize that I have been staying in hospitals a lot more than anyone else. I met people who are like 40 years old and never really had to stay in hospitals for a long time. Maybe they broke an arm and had to stay in a hospital for, I don't know, 1 month. But but uh, I had to stay in those places a, a lot, not for that long. Other people definitely stayed for longer, and other people, do not come out of hospitals anymore. But it's still a lot more than a quote healthy man or woman. Like, there was a time when I spent around 2 months in a hospital, then not so long after, a few other weeks on. If I try to say on average on how much time I spent in a hospital in my whole life, it's probably between 6 months and 12 months. I'm counting all of the visits as well, because you need to go for checkups, to control visits, and to just consult with doctors. That still counts, because that's still time spent towards dealing with your illness. So yeah. And I feel like that is a lot of time. Like, i'm I'm 21, and to to basically live and spend around a year in hospitals, that is just not good. Okay, I think everyone knows that. For example, I don't have a great memories or fun memories in being hospitals. For some reason, I believe I was a little more aware, as compared to a lot of children, because I did notice, and I can't really forget the pain, not just on the patient's face, but more importantly, the parents and the relatives. You can't really forget the expression they have when you're sitting or laying down in a hospital bed, and can't really control your own body from all the pain you have, or the distress they have on their face, the helplessness. And I feel like that's the reason why we push away people, as I mentioned before, because we can't really seem to bear how much it pains the people around us. I feel like we are kind of fine, quote, kind of fine with being ill, because we have been dealing it for a really, really long time, and we tend to forget how bad it is to experience these things. And every time we see someone else reacting to these things for the first time, I feel like we relive we re-experience the panic and the fear we experienced the very first time we had any of these symptoms. And I'm talking about every chronically ill person, and disabled person as well. At least I I believe we act this way. I don't really know, since I don't know anyone else who is chronically ill or disabled, as I said before. But yeah, I'm usually not scared when I'm having a really rough time with my symptoms. I but I get really uncomfortable and even scared when I see the expressions of others, and how afraid they are. You just like you just see those things, okay? The same way you can see how a small children gets scared from a heavy storm. You see people, and you know how afraid and maybe disgusted, or how uncomfortable they are when they see someone else in such a dire situation. And it's comes from not being able to help. At least I think that's where those negative feelings come from other people, not being able to help, and just coming to terms with how out of control everyone is in that situation. and yes, people do feel disgust and discomfort as well because of these things. uh, I have experienced it. I didn't get bullied from being chronically ill, but that is also a reality that we face. I was just lucky to not get bullied for that. But yeah, you don't really forget those faces, or how people tend to whimper and scream in pain. It's just not a good time being in a hospital. What else? Let's talk about jobs and work. I wanted to work in a restaurant, either as a chef or a waiter, and I did attend school for that, and I liked it a lot. That was in 2020, the pandemic time when everyone stayed home. So I didn't really experience a lot of things that a high schooler should, compared to other generations. But more importantly, these my school sent usually my school sends students out to get some experience, work experience in actual restaurants or hotels, or other places like that. And I spent 1 month working 5 days per week, 7 hours per day. So it's not an extremely difficult work shift, but the first few days I was fine. But as time went on and on, my knees started to hurt really, really badly, to the point that I overheard people talking that my expression on my face is not just off putting, it's just plain scary. Like people thought I would attack someone at any moment because that's the expression I had from the pain I had in my knees. And and when that 1 month ended, I had trouble to walk out the front door of the restaurant because I started to experience the same symptoms as I had when I have a flare up, like difficulty in movement and range, pain and stuff like that. And I wanted to believe that I can go on, but I couldn't. A matter of As a matter of fact, that pain didn't went away for another 6 months, and I stubbornly powered through that pain to try stay in that school because I wanted to be a chef so bad. I just couldn't give up. But but that okay, it was in summer, maybe July, when I worked at that restaurant, and in December when I had trouble walking up the stairs in my school, I I had to just give up. I I had to admit I cannot work in places that requires me to stand around because it just seems to kill my knees. So I had to change schools, and yeah, I can't really work in restaurants anymore, which is bad because I don't have a vocation or profession in anything else, and I have been working with my father in construction for the past like 1.5, maybe 2 years, which is surprisingly didn't hurt as much as standing in one place. I don't know why. Okay, every time I help, for example, my grandma, usually with cooking pancakes or something like that, that needs you to stand around in one place for a long time. My knees starts to hurt the same way. I just really can't stand around. I noticed I either sit in one place and at work or do something there, or or just never stop moving. There is no in between. I tried it. I I tried different things. I just cannot stand in one place for some reason. I can't really explain how that works. And that's why I started doing sports as well, because I realized that I can move around, and the only thing I shouldn't do is stop. But yeah, the the other thing I noticed is I don't really know if someone would hire me, not because I don't have a profession, but because what if I I have a really long period of time when I cannot move around, when I cannot work, when I can't attend, when I can't be there, which is what I'm experiencing now. But I'll talk about that a little later. I feel like even if I was one of the best at my work, whether it be, I don't know, being a cop or doing Excel sheets or being a really good personal trainer or literally anything, if I cannot be there to do my job, I believe my employers would rather hire someone who's not as good as me but can actually do the job. And and I'm not saying that I'm special and I'm the best, but I feel like that's what a lot of employers will do, because in the end of the day, all it really matters if the job is done or not. People mess up all the time. That's natural. So I feel like that's the only thing that matters to employers, to actually complete the tasks and do the jobs. And and if I can't, they will probably just let go of me with some excuse. I don't know. I I never experienced something like this. Maybe other people in the comments could say if something like this happened to them before. But yeah, dude, focus. Okay. Another important thing is when if I'm ill and experiencing the pain and the things I was talking about, even if I had a job, I would have to put double the effort into the same outcome, which is, I don't know, sounds extremely tiring, competing with people that can do the same things that I can do, but I must put more effort and willpower into it for the same pay, and usually the same shitty attitude from bosses. You don't have to tell me about the workforce and the general work experience. We all know most of the jobs are just ass, like that's about it. We don't work because we love to work. We work because we must work. And that's also really important, because we work for money, okay? We need money to feed ourselves, to pay bills and stuff like that. And if you can't work because of something like chronic illness, or maybe your house burned down, or, or basically anything that stops you from work, you just go homeless. Like we don't really realize how close we are to being homeless than being close to be a millionaire or billionaire. We we always just about this close to be homeless, the average person. and and for disabled people, and for chronically ill people, this is a really big danger, because we get fired, or we can't work for an expanded period of time. That's it. Okay, that's about it. You go homeless. You need money to get medical help as well. So yeah, the only option you have is to ask the government to give you some money every month to pay to pay for those things, but that's not a lot of money. We all know, all of us are struggling. Even if you're a healthy person, you are most likely struggling financially, and that is amplified when you're having these problems. At least that's what I believe, and I feel like a lot of people would agree with me. What what should I talk about next that regular people experience? What about love life? Having a partner. Let me tell you, it's difficult. People need to accept that you can't keep up with them, at least not all of the time, and it takes a special and really kind-hearted man or woman, or 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 anyone or anything, to accept that person who is ill and needs help. People also need to come terms with the fact, if you fell in love with a disabled or chronically ill person, you might lose them a lot sooner than you would like to. That's that's something that everyone needs to accept, or try to come terms with. Even myself, I I'm I'm not that sick most of the times, but I can't see into the future. Maybe in 10 years from now, all I will be able to do is sit in a chair, or just lay down in a hospital bed, and not being able to stand up or walk, or just being in extremely heavy medication and stuff like that. And handling that is not easy for anyone. That's this is also a reason why I never had anyone in a romantic way. Just as I said, I push away people. I I push away I push those away the most who could be romantically interested in me because I just couldn't handle the thought of seeing the same helplessness, the same pain that I saw and still see on everyone else when they just realize how much pain I'm in when I'm experiencing these symptoms. So yeah, I never had a partner. I'm a virgin because I'm afraid not just someone loving me, but loving someone as well. It's it's really scary to me, you know, putting all this weight and responsibility on someone else as well, who in theory loves me and cares about me. I feel like they shouldn't think about these things. I feel like they shouldn't experience these things. The people who care about me shouldn't experience or feel the pain I'm having, and it's scary to let someone in to show it how much vulnerable and helpless I am when it comes to a really tough flare up. It's also important to mention a lot of these things are I can give it to my child, quote, give it. You know, that's a scary thought as well. Thinking about how my child or children could have the same illness as me. That's like, just as I mentioned before, no one really believes me when I say I'm chronically ill. I usually get some opinions or some attitude like, you're so lucky to have so little of the bad things you could have when it comes to being ill, which is true. I am thankful to some degree that I don't have to experience such hardships as other people do, but it's still bad. And the way others go about this, I feel like I'm the luckiest man alive in the world. And if I have a child, that means that child is not as lucky as me. I know this sounds stupid, but let's be real. Why should I gamble my child's health, their safety, their future? Why should I gamble with their life when I know how difficult this is, and when I know they could have it a lot worse than me? Maybe they'll need a wheelchair in I don't know, when they turn 15, or they could very much, leave this earth before me just because I wanted a child or was not responsible enough. And I feel like that is extremely selfish or irresponsible to like what am I supposed to say to that child when when that kid learns these these illnesses can or most likely will go down in our bloodline, you know, that child would ask me why even when I knew they would likely experience the same illness, like why did I do it? Why why did I push them into this existence knowing that it will be, well, extremely painful and tiring. I just don't see the reason why I should bear a child or have a children. And the thing is, most people would disagree with me because on a biological level and on a societal level, people expect you to have a family, to have at least one child, or even more, which is, I do believe, is normal, but considering the situation of some people, I feel like I'm one of those who shouldn't have a kid. So yeah. Another really important thing that I feel like everyone knows about is mental health. If you ask me, I think everyone who's disabled or chronically ill suffers from at least one mental illness. I myself was diagnosed with depression, and I feel like that's the most common one, or anxiety. Yeah, I it's really difficult to talk about these things because I never did. I usually say I'm fine, or yeah, it hurts a little, but I can handle it. But in reality, uh, depression is was one of those things that hit me really, really hard. I I was diagnosed with a professional, and maybe depression, or where it came from, is not just the chronic illness I have, but the environment I was in. I'm not really sure. Maybe it's both of those things. But more importantly, that depression, I feel like, turned into something else as well. Either high functioning depression, which means you can function normally, but have extremely negative thoughts. You know, wishing you never wake up every time, every day, or passive suicidal thoughts, or things like that. You look okay from the outside, but you have these awful thoughts in your head almost all of the time. And the other thing is, I was not diagnosed with this, so I won't really go into detail because I believe you should consult with a professional, whether it be a physical health professional or someone with a degree in mental health. But I think I have some sociopathic tendencies. Like I I don't really feel emotions or happiness to that matter, which could be just the depression because a common symptom is being emotionally numb. But what I'm more concerned about is my lack of empathy. I don't really feel empathy anymore. It it takes some special conditions, like if you're in a similar position as me, which I read was one of the tell signs of sociopathic tendencies or stuff like that. I don't feel the need to talk to other people. I'm mostly fine with being myself. I don't really feel guilt to that matter. I'm I'm not a criminal. I don't really do bad stuff, but having these symptoms is not great. For example, I said I do sports. I love doing sports. That's one of the only things I love doing to this day. But I I do martial arts mostly because to some degree, I love violence. I feel like everyone who does martial arts loves violence to some degree, but I don't know if I love it because I love doing martial arts or because I love hurting people, and that's a concerning sign. Also, another really concerning sign is how unresponsive I am. I overheard people who go to the same gym as me talk about how my expression never changes, how I'm fine with being injured and having like a small injury on my lips, or how I'm fine with my eyebrows open, and how sometimes I don't even realize there's on my face. One of them even had to warn me to wash my face because there was still on it. And yeah, overhearing those, well, it's not really an opinion or hurtful thing to say, I think, but overhearing that was really eye-opening. How much discontent I am from other people, from others, how much I don't really care about not just others but mostly myself. and the lack of, well, how should I say it? The lack of self-care in like self-preservation is another sign when when you're when you have been a sociopath. Although I haven't been diagnosed, maybe I should go to a professional to get help. I don't know. And and I'm not saying that I am a sociopath, because just as I said, it's important to consult professionals, but self diagnosis and being level in your thoughts and being observant with yourself is also important, because that's how you can notice these things that I noticed about myself as well. What what really scared me or made me uncomfortable was when I worked at a wedding not so long ago as a cameraman. I will talk about that one a little later as well. And and it wasn't really a wedding, it was the 10th anniversary of the wedding. So, the husband and wife was together for 10 years, and their friends and family came together to celebrate that fact that they are together. And I didn't notice it at the time because I was focused on recording good quality videos for them. That was my job, to record videos and to make them a video for them as a quote gift to something to remember. And what I didn't notice is how happy all of them seemed to be, and how much I didn't really feel anything. And when everyone went outside to smoke and catch some fresh air, I just realized all of these things, and I got extremely upset and accidentally stared down the father of either the wife or the husband. And what happened was, is, you know, you just can't tell when someone is having a good time, they are happy. They did drink alcohol as well, so it was a lot more easier to feel happy and loose and you know have fun. But I won't forget how he turned around, was looking happy and extremely bright, and instantly his face just dropped, and not just asked me to don't look at me like that way, but it was an assertive don't look at me like that. You just know when. I can't really describe it other than this. Then I feel like I scared that man, which is I know that is a bad thing, and I don't care if you believe me or not. Like, you could say that I'm making this up, or you could say that this is an alpha male behavior, which is a big load of bullshit. To be honest, this thing is not a good thing. Okay, this is extremely alarming, towards myself, and how thin of an ice I walk sometimes when it comes to being, I don't know, emotional or friendly, something like that. I can't really describe it other than this. This is what happened, and and after that, like, it's an anniversary and people drink alcohol, and of course the guests are give me some alcohol as well, which is fine on itself when you can say one shot or one beer is more than enough for the night because I was working. But after that, I was so upset. I started to drink more, and lost control a little. The I didn't do anything bad or upsetting, but like, escaping in substance abuse is not the it's not the solution, which is also uh, wait, right, why also scaring that man is was really bad and eye-opening, was because I overheard he served in a police station or SWAT station or something like that. I'm not so sure. I just overheard some people talk about a father serving in like a SWAT squad or something like that, and that's why it was extremely eye-opening that I possibly ticked off or scared an ex policeman or something like that, because they experienced some extreme situation with extreme people. They probably met dangerous people as well, and the fact that they switched into the assertive, well, policeman tone, uh, that was really eye opening for me on how much I'm different from others, or how much I could scare people. Right, I was just about to get into substance abuse. Another really bad thing about being chronically ill is it's easy to get an addiction. You really want to forget things. You really want to feel better, and substance is usually a way out for people, a way to escape, at least for a short time. And since I'm having these, well, I don't know, symptoms as a sociopath, that's also a really easy way, or it's easier for them to get addicted as well. So I really tried to cut my ties with alcohol, because I know, I just know I could get addicted to it very easily. Well, I actually enjoy alcohol like most people do, but the happy feeling I get from it is, I think, one of the most dangerous things I could indulge in. since I don't really experience a lot of happiness, and the fact that I can just get in a store and buy quote happiness in a bottle for a few bucks or a few euros, that is extremely dangerous, and I don't really think I have to explain why. Yeah. Also, uh, just as I said, I have been sick for the last year, actually. Yeah, the last year. I have been sick for a really, really long time. And I really want to talk about how the health care system is just so messed up and unreliable. So how it usually goes is I start to experience the symptoms, and you usually wait for a few days to see, at least I do that, a few days to see if I'm actually having a flare up, or just it hurts, because sometimes it just does for a few days. And if the pain does not goes away or gets worse, or I'm starting to experience swelling in joints, I just know I'm having a inflammation. And you basically call your doctor. Most of us have a personal doctor who you contact, and then you get your medication and treatment and so on and so on. which how things supposed to go, but when all of this started in February, I tried to contact my doctor after, I don't know, like 2 or 3 weeks. Turns out that she was on a vacation. So I got my first appointment around April, I think, which was great. I had to wait a shit ton of time, but what can you do? It's not her fault. It's the fault of the slow and basically really bad healthcare system we have around here. So I went to her. I should really mention that the pain level that I experienced in that time varied. Sometimes I had almost no problems. Sometimes I was barely able to walk, which can happen. But I was managing it quite well. And in April, when I had my first appointment, I basically got some anti-inflammatory medicine that was both anti-inflammatory and a weak painkiller as well. And we had to do that because my sacrum, I'll probably put a picture on it on the screen. Basically, that got inflamed, and the reason why I didn't get the steroid shot as usual, because who gets this um, this rheumatic arthritis in childhood. Sometimes it changes into a different thing. I don't know what it's called in English, but my doctor basically said we should not take steroid right now because this illness might not need steroid shots, which I'm extremely grateful for my doctor because she's not the first one I had. All of the ones before always tried to just shove steroid down my throat or give me steroid shots like crazy, and she's the only one who tried to not to do that because of the mentioned side effects. But yeah, she basically said to let's wait for now, take these pills, come back in like July, and we will see what's what's up with this thing. As for now, you should take some blood tests and go on an MRI to make sure if everything is fine, and we will talk about things in July. And I was mostly fine in that time being. I did the blood tests and I went on the MRI as well. And well, the pain only worsened when it got really stormy and stuff like that, just as I mentioned before. Other than that, I was kind of fine. But yeah, I went back in July and we started talking about things. And turns out, when your sacrum gets inflamed, it might be because of a gene related problem. And and turns out I have that illness. And what I understood about this is this, well, autoimmune disease can turn into this different one, which is complicated and I can't really explain it well. But what it means, your your illness evolves into a different one. Luckily for me, this does not require a steroid shot anymore, which is great. But this means I could have frequent inflammation in my sacrum, which isn't great. And and the blood tests confirmed this, and the MRI machine, well, the the picture we got from the MRI machine didn't show any physical injury, like a broken spine disc or anything like that. It only showed the inflammation I had in my sacrum. So so that's about it. Since we or because I didn't experience extreme amount of pain and difficulty in movement, and because I felt pretty good, we both of my doctor and I thought the the anti-inflammatory pills I'm having or had was actually helping me. So we did agree on another checkup in like November or something around like that. On around No, it was October. I went back again. Not much changed. I said that maybe I'm not so sure. I don't really feel anything when I take these pills because we agreed upon to experience with it. At first, I had to take two pills every day. If the pain got lower than one pill, and I was allowed to try out what happens if I don't take those pills. And what I noticed is whether I take the pills or not, it it doesn't help with the pain at all. I don't know. It just didn't help. I thought it did, but it was just like eating candy. Like it didn't have an effect on me. So we changed medications, and I agreed on meeting up again in December. I said the same thing. Hell, even yeah, e- that medication didn't help at all again. So we, so I asked, what could we do? What is there to be done? Because the medication does not help. I'm doing a a little amount of like quote working out, easy stuff, things you do in yoga that helps you maintain your quote flexibility and range of movement. Like I did those, and it does help to stay somewhat in condition physically, but it's not enough. and and more importantly, the more I move my body, the more it hurts every time. I can't really be physically active in this time, well, this year. And and she said people with this illness have a treatment that will most likely help. It's it's called a biological therapy or something like that. It's an injection, and it basically regenerates on a cellular level. So it basically should heal the cells that are inflamed, and it's supposed to make your well shit go away. It's supposed to stop being inflamed. And I asked, like, what are the symptoms? Symptoms? What are the side effects and stuff like that? And she said, this was in December. She said that it's a trusted medicine. It has been around for more than 10 years. The 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 experience of the patients is really good as well. They have a really positive experience with it. The side effects are extremely rare and mild. There's like no dizziness and something like those things. And the only thing she mentioned was your liver could start producing a different enzyme than it's supposed to do, but that's why you go on regular blood tests and stuff like that. But even That's supposed to be extremely rare. So I was like, "Oh, great. When do we start? I have been sick for almost a year now." And I had to fill out a paper which was basically about how much pain I'm experiencing every day, how much difficulty I have, like in clothing and bathing and taking care of myself. And sadly, she said that you don't experience enough pain and difficulty to to get you started in this treatment. And I was like, dude, come on. And I was like, fine, okay, what what sh- then what's going to happen now? She said to come back in January, and we'll see if things don't get better or worse. I will probably let you start this treatment since you have been ill for a really long time. So but like still, it's kind of annoying, you know. And I was like, fine, okay, I'll come back in January. I was pretty annoyed, but was like, fine. Let's see what happens in January. At least I will stay home again, go maybe play with something, some video games or anything. What could be the worst to happen? The holidays are coming. This should be a good time, even if I'm sick. At least that's what I thought. This month, in in the between, well, December and January was hell. It was really bad. I I basically lost the ability to take care of myself. What happened was my my pain and difficulty in movement started rising around Christmas, and as time went on and on, it just got worse and worse and worse to the point that I basically was not able to walk or stand up or take my clothes off. Like, check this out. See this? You could say what's so special about a feet and a sock, but I was in such a bad condition. I was not able to reach down for my feet and put socks on for like four 4 weeks. I have been walking with a bare foot because I just couldn't reach my foot. There was a time when I had to skip showers for 4 consecutive days in a row just because I was not able to do anything really. At one time, I was stuck on the toilet as well. I tried to take care of my thing, but it it hurts so much that I just my whole body clenched up and just couldn't take a shit really. And that was about it. And even though I tried to stand up, I couldn't. I was completely stuck in pain, in enough pain that I almost passed out. That was almost an everyday reoccurrence in those 4 weeks. There, it was horrible. Okay, it was just bad, and yeah, turns out for some reason my muscles got inflamed as well. The first time I was sure about it was when my glutes basically cramped, and I realized both my sacrum and the glutes got inflamed extremely badly, to the point that I cannot walk, to the point that I stand in a weird way, putting more weight on my right leg, and like having a weird posture, like standing around like this. The the thing that helped me was not my medication, was actually just one moment. Was this a massage pistol, or I don't know how you call this in English. So yeah, this was the thing that saved me. I had to massage my glutes, my ass, every day, twice. So yeah, I used this. At first, it was really freaking painful, and well, it started to cramp almost every second, to put it that way. There was a time when, bro, focus. Okay, there was a time when I had, I don't know, close to 50 cramps a day. So yeah, this saved me. I had to massage it and use like some special sports gel that's supposed to loosen up your muscles, and stuff like that. I even had to use a walker that I got from a relative. Yeah, that's fun, right? Getting so little support from the medical health system, that I got a mobility aid from a relative sooner than the actual health care system. I will put the picture of it here, but not so long after. Well, I have this now. I have both of these. This is mine forever, until at least I'm losing it or it breaks. But it's fun, right? One of I didn't really know that guy. It was my grandma's cousin or friend. I rarely met him, but I got that walker from him. He died in, like, I don't know, 3 months, maybe four, and I had to borrow a man's mobility aid. Great. Anyways, after all of these things, of literally having a seance for my glutes, and doing special care for my ass. At this point, I really hope I'll have as big as a dump truck as Kim Kardashian, because if I don't, I'm just going to crash out. Okay. And- but yeah. By the way, don't hate my my doctor. She's she's one of the good ones who's actually care for her patients and tries to do the right thing without over medication and stuff like that. She could have easily stuck a steroid shot in me because that's usually how things goes. But yeah, the problem wasn't with her, it's with the healthcare system basically ignoring me. But yeah, um, plus she's not all powerful. She's still in a system as well. She got a lot of responsibility because if she makes the wrong choice, she could very easily make my case a lot worse, and that could end up in basically losing her license. So I do understand her situation as well on not starting this well biological therapy until now, because I went back in January. I said the things that happened to me, and she was like, "Yeah, yeah, it's time to start mm, that therapy thing. I will have to take some blood tests and go on a lot of other tests I can't really explain in English. So yeah, turns out I will get help finally after 1 year, which is great. Should have been a lot sooner. I believe after 6 months I should have gotten the first shot from this biological thing. But what can you do? At least I'll have it now. As I mentioned, over medicating someone is dangerous. And I just remembered I I was meeting a professional about my mental health problems, and I got antidepressants. But that that doctor was a fucking dickhead, okay? Do you know the feeling when you're talking to someone and you just see on their faces that they don't want to be there, they don't want to listen to you, they they just want to do something else, and basically they are just annoyed that you are there. Yeah, that doctor who was supposed to help me with my mental health problems was acting that way. She basically said that it was kind of my fault for being depressed and stuff like that. I'm not joking. And she she basically gave me some antidepressants and was like, "Come back in 2 weeks." And yeah, and I did that for I don't know 1.5 months. I saw her around 3 or 4 times, maybe five. I don't know. And and yeah, she didn't mention something that could help with my problems or suggest things that could, you know, fix some of the problems I had. The only thing she did was to give me the antidepressants, and congratulations, that almost got me addicted as well. I I had to quit that antidepressant called cold turkey. By the way, don't do that. When every time you are on a medication for a long time, don't quit just like this, because you can have withdrawal symptoms, and in some extreme cases that can actually, you know, put you 6 feet under. This is especially true when you have been addicted to some substances for a really, really long time. So yeah, do not quit medication like I did. I never went back to the doctor anyway. So yeah, there are still a ton of things I didn't mention. The things that I thought that are probably responsible for my mental health and both my physical health as well. Things like, eating 3 meals a day would be nice. For multiple reasons, I mostly eat one or two. Like how I was bullied in elementary school, how I walked off a internal bleeding as well, since I knew the if I went to the hospital I would only get a like saline solution, an IV here, and they would just let me out the same or next day. I know it because I had some medical emergencies and had to be in like emergency healthcare, intensive care for a short amount of time. So yeah, I just know they wouldn't have helped me with that internal bleeding, and things like poverty, addiction, and a lot of similar things as well. Maybe one day I will talk about this, and maybe one day I will tell these things to my relatives and people who think of me as friends, because they don't know any of these things, or or a attempt. It wasn't really an attempt, but I almost tried it. Things like that. Maybe one day I will be strong enough to tell these things, but not now, at least. This is already a huge step towards healing, I think. So yeah.
We joke, we laugh, we suppress our trauma. All right, enough of this feeling shit.
But that's enough of the depressive topics, because I do have plans for the future, especially for this YouTube channel. I'm sure you saw these really well edited, uh, basically video documentation videos about, for example, streamers having a controversial moment. I want to learn that kind of style of editing. I will probably show you what I'm talking about. And the first video idea I have would be about the Group B rally, the really dangerous one. And I mostly would do these documentation videos about sports, because I love sports, and I feel like there are a lot of interesting topics to have and to talk about in there, both for men and women, or disabled people for that matter. The other idea I have, it's not really one video, but a whole video series. I enjoy video games, which shouldn't be a surprise since, because of my illness, I had to be home or stay in hospitals a lot of times, and video games was the easiest thing to enjoy. And I want to start a basically a indie game jam hunt with unknown games, with, I don't know, people, small groups, or just one person who made a game with extremely small coverage, because that is interesting to me as well. How a small group or one person could make something out of nothing, and I believe that could be a really fun topic as well. I I also want to continue this talking into the camera, like some kind of vlogging from time to time, especially since I want to start my own fitness journey as well. These are the tamer plans I have, but I absolutely got batshit insane plans for the future as well. For example, I want to make my own comic book or manga or manhwa, or call it whatever you want. I want to make my own. A matter of fact, when I graduated from high school, I did choose art as one of my subjects, but I stopped drawing in years. Like, this is one of the things I did years ago. It's nothing special, but it looks fine. This is also one of those things I did years ago. These are nothing special, but they don't look horrible. You can actually understand what you're looking at, and I feel like that's one of the most important things when it comes to doing art and drawing as a beginner. If you can look at something and you know what it is, you probably did a good job. Like this this as well. Well, that or this, like, I use these aren't necessarily mine. I followed a tutorial for most of these, which you actually should do, because it is a lot easier to learn drawing when you can follow guides and see what other people do. Okay, this one isn't done yet. It's a mushroom. I also have a really old one and a picture. I will probably show it to you. And what I'm really proud of, but did not finish it because I tried to fill it in watermark, but I didn't have a good quality one, is this. Yeah, yeah, this looks cool, you know. So yeah, I got a lot of crazy things in mind for the future, and maybe we will see each other again. At least I hope so. So yeah, that's about it actually. Okay, see you guys later.